I took back everything she stole from me. Welcome. This is Cheating Fact, Real Accounts of Deception and Justice. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. My name is Connor. I'm 41 years old. And I'm here to share my story about the day I discovered that the two people I trusted most in the world had been systematically betraying me for over a year. This isn't just about a cheating wife or a disloyal business partner. This is about how blind trust can destroy you, and how methodical determination can help you rebuild. 12 years ago, I married Vivian. She was brilliant, ambitious, and had this infectious energy that made everyone around her feel more alive. We built a good life together, a house in the suburbs, 2 kids, the whole package. 8 years ago, I started a consulting firm with my college friend, Derek. He was the charismatic salesman. I was the strategic thinker. And together we built something genuinely successful. Our firm specialized in corporate restructuring. And by last year, we were pulling in 7 figures annually. Vivian worked in marketing at a tech company, and Derek was happily married to his wife, Lauren, who became one of Vivian's close friends. Our families vacationed together. Our kids played together. On paper, I had everything a man could want. The first crack appeared about 18 months ago, though I didn't recognize it at the time. Vivian started staying late at work more frequently. She'd always been dedicated to her career, so I didn't think much of it. She also started putting more effort into her appearance, new clothes, regular salon visits, a sudden interest in the gym. When I complimented her, she'd smile and say she just wanted to feel good about herself. What kind of husband questions that? Around the same time, Derek became increasingly involved in our company's client entertainment activities. He'd always been good at schmoozing clients. But suddenly he was volunteering for every dinner, every conference, every out-of-town meeting. He'd come back from these trips energized, talking about the deals he'd closed and the relationships he'd built. I was grateful. More client work meant more revenue, and I could focus on operations. But then I started noticing small inconsistencies. One Thursday evening, Vivian said she had a late meeting and wouldn't be home until after 9. I called her office around 7:30 because our daughter had a question about her school project. Her assistant said Vivian had left at 5. When she got home at 9:15, I asked casually about her meeting. She didn't miss a beat, said it was off-site with a potential vendor. The explanation was smooth, practiced even. 2 weeks later, I was reviewing our company's credit card statements, something I did monthly as part of my financial oversight. There was a charge from a boutique hotel in the city. Midweek, for $470. I called Derek to ask about it. He said he'd met a client there for drinks and their business center for a presentation, and the charge must have included some food. Reasonable enough. But when I looked at his calendar for that day, it showed him at our office until 6 p.m. The hotel was 40 minutes away. The timestamp on the charge was 3 p.m. I didn't confront him immediately. Instead, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Over the next month, I noticed that Vivian's late nights often coincided with Derek's client dinners. I noticed that they'd both become extremely protective of their phones, keeping them face down and password protected. I noticed that when we all got together as couples, there was a careful casualness between them, too careful. Like actors who'd over-rehearsed their scenes. The turning point came on a Tuesday in March. Derek said he was flying to Boston for a 2-day conference. That same morning, Vivian mentioned she had a work trip to attend a marketing summit. Different cities, different conferences, different industries. Except when I casually asked Vivian where her summit was being held. She hesitated for just a fraction of a second before saying Chicago. But I'd already seen the airline confirmation email she'd left open on the home computer the night before. She'd booked a flight to Boston. That's when I stopped making excuses for them and started building a case. I wasn't interested in dramatic confrontations or emotional outbursts. I wanted evidence, the kind that would hold up in divorce court and in dissolving a business partnership. I wanted irrefutable proof that would protect my assets and my children. I hired a private investigator named Judith. a former police detective who specialized in infidelity cases. I gave her dates, times, locations, and expense reports. I also installed a legal GPS tracker on Vivian's car, something I could do since the vehicle was registered in both our names. I started keeping meticulous records of every late night, every changed plan, every suspicious charge on our business accounts. Judith delivered her first report within 2 weeks. She'd followed them to a hotel 20 miles outside the city. She had photographs of them entering together, separately from other guests. Time-stamped images showed them going into the same room. She'd even recorded them having dinner in the hotel restaurant, sitting close, touching hands across the table. The photographs were intimate, unmistakable, and devastating. But I didn't confront them yet. I needed more. I needed to understand the full scope of the betrayal. Were they planning to leave their spouses? Were they embezzling from the company? How long had this been going on? I discovered that Derek had been billing personal expenses to the company for months. Flowers, jewelry, weekend getaways, all disguised as client entertainment or business development. He'd stolen over $30,000 from our firm to fund his affair with my wife. I documented every transaction, matched them against calendar entries and credit card statements. I also gained access to Vivian's cloud backup, again, legally, since we shared a family account. I found hundreds of text messages between them going back 14 months. The messages were explicit, detailed, and included conversations about their future. Together, they'd discussed divorcing their spouses. They'd talked about starting over, maybe even starting a new business, together using Derek's connections and what they called liquid assets, which I realized meant money he planned to hide from me during our partnership dissolution. The messages revealed something else too. They'd been incredibly careful, or so they thought. They'd created a narrative where I was the workaholic husband too focused on spreadsheets to notice his wife, where Lauren was the boring, conventional wife holding Derek back. They'd convinced themselves they were the victims of unfulfilling marriages, that what they were doing was somehow justified. Reading those messages was like being hollowed out from the inside. But I didn't let the emotion derail me. I compiled everything into a comprehensive file: photographs, text messages, financial records, calendar discrepancies, GPS logs. I consulted with a divorce attorney and a business litigation specialist. I prepared for every possible counter-move. Then I planned the confrontation. Not a dramatic scene, but a calculated meeting. I scheduled a special partnership review meeting at our office for a Friday afternoon. I told Derek we needed to discuss Q2 projections. I asked Vivian to come by afterwards so we could go to dinner and discuss something important about our family. That Friday, I arrived at the office early and set up the conference room. I had printed copies of everything: the photos, the texts, the financial records. I had my lawyer on standby via phone. I'd already filed the divorce papers that morning. Vivian just didn't know it yet. I'd also prepared documentation to initiate the buyout clause in our partnership agreement, a clause Derek had probably forgotten about that allowed either partner to force a sale under specific conditions, including financial malfeasance. Derek arrived at 2 p.m., relaxed and smiling. We made small talk for a few minutes. Then I slid the first folder across the table, the one containing photographs of him and Vivian entering the hotel. I watched his face drain of color. "Before you say anything," I said calmly, "you should know I have 14 months of documented evidence. Text messages, financial records, GPS data, and witness statements. I've already filed for divorce from Vivian, and I'm invoking the buyout clause in our partnership agreement based on your embezzlement of company funds." He tried to deny it. Then he tried to minimize it. Then, finally, he crumbled. He admitted everything. The affair had started at a company holiday party. They'd both had too much to drink. One thing led to another, and then they couldn't stop. He swore he'd never meant to hurt me, which might be the single most insulting thing someone can say after systematically betraying you for over a year. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I simply walked him through the documentation of his financial theft, explained that I had enough evidence to press criminal charges if he contested the buyout, and informed him that his wife, Lauren, would be receiving her own folder of information later that day. I gave him one option: sign over his partnership share at a valuation that accounted for the money he'd stolen, walk away quietly, and I wouldn't pursue criminal charges. He signed within an hour. Vivian arrived at 4 p.m., still expecting we were going to dinner. Instead, she found me alone in the conference room with her folder. I watched her go through the same stages Derek had: denial, minimization, excuses. She cried. She apologized. She said she loved me, that it was a mistake, that it meant nothing. It meant nothing. I said, "You discussed leaving me. You planned a future with him. You used our family account to coordinate your affair. You made me feel crazy for noticing the obvious signs. Don't insult me with it meant nothing." I handed her the divorce papers. I'd filed for fault-based divorce with grounds of adultery. I was seeking primary custody of our children based on her demonstrated pattern of deception. I'd frozen our joint accounts and secured the marital assets. I'd done everything my attorney advised to protect myself and our kids. She begged for another chance. She said she'd end things with Derek, that we could go to counseling, that she'd do anything. But here's what I'd learned over those months of investigation: trust, once thoroughly destroyed, doesn't just come back because someone is sorry they got caught. She hadn't confessed out of guilt. She hadn't stopped the affair because she valued our marriage. She only apologized because I'd cornered her with evidence. The aftermath was brutal, but I was prepared for it. Derek's wife Lauren divorced him within 3 months. The shame of it, the betrayal of both friendship and marriage, isolated him completely from our social circle. He tried to start a competing firm, but I'd already secured our client relationships and made quiet, professional calls explaining that Derek was no longer affiliated with our company due to ethical violations. In the consulting world, reputation is everything. His was destroyed. Vivian fought the custody arrangement initially, but when I made it clear I was willing to present all the evidence in open court, including the messages where she discussed prioritizing her relationship with Derek over time with our children, she agreed to a settlement. I got primary custody. She got supervised visitation until she could demonstrate stability. She lost her job eventually too, not because I interfered, but because her focus had been so consumed by the affair that her work performance had tanked. As for me, I bought out Derek's share of the company for about 60% of what it would have been worth in a clean partnership dissolution, accounting for his theft and the damage to the firm. I brought in a new partner, someone I vetted thoroughly. The business is actually thriving. Now, removing the dysfunction and deception created space for honest growth. My kids struggled initially with the divorce, but children are resilient, and they are adjusting. More importantly, they're learning from my example that you don't have to accept betrayal just because someone apologizes, that you can rebuild after devastation. That justice isn't about revenge. It's about protecting yourself and holding people accountable for their choices. I'm not going to pretend I'm completely healed. Some nights, I still replay the moments I missed, the signs I explained away, the trust one gave so freely. But I don't regret how I handled it. I didn't let emotion drive me into reckless decisions. I protected my children, my business, and my future. Vivian sometimes asks if I'll ever forgive her. Honestly, I don't know. Forgiveness isn't really the point anymore. The point is that I took back control of my life from 2 people who decided they could steal it from me. I rebuilt my business without a dishonest partner. I'm raising my children in a home built on honesty rather than lies. And I sleep at night knowing that when I discovered the truth, I didn't fall apart. I fought back strategically and won. If you're watching this and something feels off in your relationship, trust your instincts. You're not paranoid. You're not crazy. You're noticing patterns because patterns exist. Don't ignore them. Don't make excuses. And if you discover betrayal, don't let shock and emotion drive you into making impulsive decisions that hurt your position. Build your case. Protect your assets. Document everything. And then act from a position of strength. To everyone who's been betrayed by someone they trusted, you don't owe them endless chances to hurt you. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and even for your children, is to walk away from people who've proven they don't value your trust. Thanks for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and share your own experiences in the comments. Remember, you're stronger than you think, and you deserve better than someone who treats your love like it's disposable.